And we are live. What's going on, guys? It's Ricky with TechBud Solutions. Hope that you guys are all having an amazing Monday. Happy MLK Day. So in observance to MLK Day, the stock market was closed today, which means that we have 4 trading days this week. That means tomorrow is going to be our official first trading day of the week, and I'm excited for it. The reason why is NASDAQ futures are down as of right now. About 1%. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard the news, and if you haven't, I actually talked about it in today's earlier video, where NASDAQ futures were in the red based off of Trump's warning of higher tariffs for 8 countries over Greenland. I think that's the best way to explain it, is that, yes, markets sold off due to uncertainty. This has happened in the past before, which is why I explained 2 very easy routes you can take based off of your opinion on how you think markets are going to react. If you are bullish on the market, meaning that you think that markets will continue to push higher, and rightfully so, market direction has been in your favor, and I want to respect that, right? On the day chart, higher highs and higher lows. I do believe that markets are overbought, but that's my personal opinion. That is my personal bias, and I like to make that very well understood, right? That is my bias, and understanding that, I still agree that overall direction and overall sentiment on the larger time frames has been more in favor for the bulls. I don't think that markets are a good deal right now, but that doesn't mean that a good trade opportunity, which is normally a shorter time frame, maybe a day trade or maybe a swing trade, that doesn't mean that it can't be a good potential dip buy opportunity, because if markets, based off of a tweet that Trump can send out tomorrow, can quickly cause markets to recover back to previous highs of around 625 to 630, right, for QQQ. And we all know that when the NASDAQ market sells off, as we see that it's down about 1%, overall markets sell off. It does have, a really big impact on big tech companies. PLTR down 1.5%. And the list goes on, right? So you can look at Amazon, 1.62%. We have nvidia, 1.42%, so on and so forth. So I did want to update you guys. I know some of you guys watched my video on Friday, and I talked to you about a position. I only had 50. Wait, what the heck? Oh, this is Apple. I had what was it? Oh man, it's down 3.5%. I had a $50,000 position on MSTR. As a lot of you guys know, during overnight hours, you can actively trade right now. You can't open up a short, but you can close your short during overnight hours. I opened a short on Friday right before the markets closed, right around 173.50, something like that. 173.50. I can actually look at the average purchase price here. 173.10. I closed at my short. I left myself with my one lucky share, and I made a little bit over $1,700. So I played it safe. Markets can continue to drop when it comes down to like Bitcoin. Bitcoin can continue to sell off. And as you guys saw, there's a significant sell-off on BTC. When BTC sells off, we know that MSTR sells off as well. So I saw it to be a pretty favorable move. I really liked the setup. I explained my thought process on Friday, and although I believed MSTR was overbought, I also wasn't fully convinced, because, markets can pump up for no reason, which is why I only put $50,000 behind this trade. And I only trade shares. I do not trade options. So for those that are going to be asking, if you're trying to learn more about options, I just am not going to be your guy. And I want to be very open with you when it comes down to that. The only other trade that I am still holding, that I have not closed out any of it yet, is CoreWeave. CoreWeave was down about 6%. This is also a short. I still have 300 shares on this one. It's only about $30,000 with an average price of 101.76. So 101.76, literally right before the market closed, was when I opened up the short, and that means that I would be up. I'd be up roughly right around $900 to almost $1,000 on my trade. So nothing super significant, but a nice little kind of swing trade from Friday to Monday. It's not super safe, right? Which is one thing that I always like reminding our LPP members, is that if you carry a position overnight, I hope that you know I hope that you're not carrying a position overnight with the same position size that you would with a day trade. With a day trade, even if things go south, I can quickly manage my risk, right? So I'm down, let's say I lose 5%, I can manage it. I can cut losses at 2.5, I can cut losses at 3. It's fully manageable because during normal trading hours, I have full control of my exposure, my position size, and how I can get out. When you carry a position overnight, right? We don't know how markets are going to open on Monday, or in this case on Tuesday. So that is a great reminder that it shouldn't discourage you to take a swing trade if you see an opportunity presenting itself. And that's kind of what I saw with CoreWeave. I talked about it, that it was running up, it's overbought, and I saw some gap down potential. It reminded me a lot of like what Oklo was doing when it ran up. It was a previously bullish stock that's been selling off, very similar to CoreWeave. And it had a really nice setup where it was an overbought reversal, and I see some gap down potential, right? Risk to reward. Again, I wasn't fully convinced. I just wanted to explain. I mean, I was okay with taking a $30,000 position. And in comparison to what I normally trade with, that's like a 10%, maybe 15% position size. So again, I'm not afraid to take advantage of an opportunity as a swing trade. I just tend to give it less size because I know it comes at a greater form of risk. And it'd be very stupid for me to talk about, oh, look at me, like I'm up $1,000 on this and I'm up $1,700 on this, and pretend like there wasn't some form of risk. There's risk with all of this, right? So, Ricky, what do you think about Irene? I like that you brought that one up. I don't think it's still down. It was down like 8% at one point. Who that is here right now is part of my LPP team that gets to watch me trade live. The reason I asked that is I've had trouble shorting Irene recently. Irene has been doing a very good job running up. It does remind me a lot of like CoreWeave and Oklo. They're very speculative based stocks that run for no reason. Irene is just one that seems to be a little bit stronger right now. It has stronger momentum. It's not really pulling back, and you can clearly see it's an upward ascending uptrend pattern. And because of that, to put it very simple, the trend is against us, right? So it has become a more challenging stock to short. So do I think it would be a very favorable stock or very easy stock to short right now? No, just like we've seen in the past before, there are times when it begins to sell off, and that's, I believe, the time and the place to short it. In moments like this, although it is overbought in my opinion, and I see there to be retracement potential, this is one that I've learned that it's just like, hey, kind of give it the time that it might need. Once it begins to break support and break structure and actively sell off, wait for that confirmation, and then I can choose to strike, right? I'm not going to catch the whole move, but even if I capture a small piece of the move, there's a lot of, even not catching that full move, there's nearly 30% of downside potential. Even if I only capture 5 or 10% of that, right? I'd be very happy. So, yeah, and you guys have seen it all firsthand, right? I've tried shorting Irene before, and because of how bullish and how stubborn it is sometimes, right? If you look at it on the shorter time frame, sometimes all it does is just consolidate. For me, I don't normally like trading patterns like that. But if it's something that meets your criteria, be my guest, right? That's why I've encouraged it before, where I don't like MSTR. A lot of people know that. I actively short MSTR. But I respect your right as an American, if you are from America, right, as a publicly traded company in the United States, to buy it. And if you think it's a good deal and you think it is the future, and as many people think it's going to go to $1 trillion, or what was it, $10 trillion, I say put your money where your mouth is and buy as much as you can afford. For me, I think it's a bullshit company. I think it's overhyped up, over leveraged. And I think as Bitcoin continues to sell off, as speculative assets are always the first to crash before we enter an uncertain time, possible recession. I then think that then speculative assets like Bitcoin are likely to crash. And if Bitcoin crashes, then we know that MSTR will crash as well, because the actual underlying business of MSTR is BS, right? If you understand what MSTR actually is, you know exactly that it doesn't make any money. It actually loses money. It loses, it's like $500 million a year in actual, what's it called? It reports here in revenue, 474 million, but that's because it's using, $7.9 billion in net income. And the reason that is because it's able to report its unrealized gain. Come when it has to report its Q4 loss for its unrealized loss, that's where it's going to get very interesting, where it's lost. I don't know what the number was exactly. It was like $7 or $10 billion in just Q4 of 2025. So again, like, I think that's the really beautiful part about this market, is that you really get to put your opinions, out in the open, right? Like, why have a loud opinion if you don't do anything about it? If you really do believe that this is the future, then, I would say buy it. For me, I think it's one of the easiest stocks to short, and our LPP team has made a lot of money shorting this, to say the least. We've called it out from the initial pump. You can look back to when this thing was pumping up to $500 per share. That's when I began making videos about MSTR. It crashed all the way to lows of 230. It ran back up. Guess what we began to do? Hit a resistance, began selling off. We began to short it. It is somewhat oversold technically, but if Bitcoin continues to drop, then so will MSTR. So let's go ahead and focus on your guys' stocks. So I quickly wanted to talk about this. A lot of uncertainty right now with the trade, the trade war, tariffs, what's going on with Greenland. Are tariffs going to stick? Why is Trump still investigating criminally, Jerome Powell? And also, what the heck is going on with silver? And did you guys pick up what's going on with natural gas? So a lot of volatility, a lot of different things are happening this week, but I don't feel like they're kind of like headline things, because it's not like a CPI report. It's not like a rate decision or anything like that. It is more of like, if you know, right? Trump's tariffs are supposed to be voted again by the Supreme Court to see if they are legal or illegal. Something to note and to pay attention to, because if that does get decided on, and if it doesn't get postponed again, that's going to be a very volatile day. The second thing is this escalation when it comes down to Greenland. What's going on with it? Is it going to get worse? And if it does, we don't know, right? If it does, be ready for markets to drop lower. If it's all just smoke and mirrors, then again, at that point, if it finds its bottom, as it normally tends to do, that's kind of like Trump's theme. He makes a lot of threats. They settle, markets recover. You kind of pick up on that pattern, right? So I wouldn't really be surprised if markets do recover, but I'm staying optimistic. That is why I decided to take profit on my MSTR short, just because I know how, what do I want to say? How quickly Trump can change his mind or his opinion on once he announces a tariff and then maybe takes it back if it's in his benefit to, or when it comes down to negotiating. So we've seen it many times in 2025 that he can switch on us on a dime. All it takes is one tweet. And like I always say to my LPP members, when in doubt, never be afraid to cash out. So again, if you want me to break down your stock, share whatever ticker you want me to pay attention to and break down, and I'd be more than happy to break it down for you guys, okay? No, Joshua, when you were putting PLS, I thought you were saying like please. Wait, are you saying please? Nothing pops up when I just type in PLS. Are you just telling me please? Oh, fossil. What? Oh, you are saying please, but it's too close to a Tigger, brother. You can't be using that. That is too good. No, just fossil. All right, I'll break it down for you, brother. So again, thank you for tuning on in. Hope that earned your thumbs up. And again, I'm just going to be sharing my opinion with you guys. At the end of the day, if you don't agree with my opinion, I respect that. I'm just here to share my 2 cents with you. So right off the bat, I know that this isn't a stock that I would personally trade myself. Why? It has super low volume. I don't like trading stocks with this low volume. It's just not my style. They can be, in my opinion, easily manipulated, easily moved. And because of that, I choose to stay away. I see why you're paying attention to it. It's probably, picked up by a lot of screeners right now. It went from lows of a few cents to now at $4. Again, I think that's great. Normally when this thing pumps, it dumps. I like to look at different time frames because they give you different perspectives. This is one thing that I share with my LPP students, right? Different time frames give you different perspectives. What might look like a parabolic move going up can, when you zoom out, you can begin to see, hey, this thing's kind of began to consolidate for some time. This thing has a history of pumping and dumping. It does pump, but eventually when it peaks, and if it doesn't break above, it gets rejected and then begins to dump. Because of that, the risk is too high for me. Yes, I see that it could break out, and I do believe that, especially in this environment and market condition, anything can happen, right? So can this thing continue to run up? Of course. Technically speaking, it looks like it's setting up for a nice little breakout. If it does end up making new highs, it can lead to a breakout, right? If it breaks support, breaks below its structure, below EMA, then we can see a retracement back to previous lows, just like we've seen in the past before. It runs up, it peaks, it consolidates, and then it finds its support. Pumps up, peaks, consolidates, and then falls to where it was before. It pumps up, consolidates. To me, it's showing signs of a possible rejection, but again, it's going back up to retest previous highs. So we'll see. We'll see if it actually breaks above, makes new highs, and if it does, cool. Could be a momentum-based day trade. I still would not feel comfortable holding this position overnight, knowing that it could fall 50%. Just my 2 cents. So let me go ahead and break down the next stock for you. So again, what's the next stock you would like me to break down for you? APP. Okay. And again, appreciate you tuning on in. Hopefully we earn your thumbs up. Oh, okay. A bullish stock with a recent pullback. Do you mind if I ask what is the reason that it's been selling off? That's a decent pullback. So it's an active sell-off right now. It looks like it's had some pretty significant recent red days. Pulling back pretty hard. It definitely still has more retracement potential, but if you can tolerate the time that it might take for this thing to recover, there's that recovery. From current lows to previous highs, 33%. Okay. I can see, I'm going to add this to an oversold watch list. I think it's a stock worth watching. I don't know if it would be a stock worth buying. The reason I say that is because it's actively selling off. So who's to say that this is the bottom? One thing that we've learned is the cheap can always get cheaper. I want to first find the trigger on why this is selling off, then wait for indication of a support, just like it's done it in the past before. It sells off, consolidates, finds its support, builds a reversal. It all just doesn't happen in one day, right? Builds its reversal, and once it begins to uptrend, I can decide to buy and then see, hey, if it meets my criteria, buy, go long, and then sell at previous highs. I like the setup. I like the idea. I like the larger time frame. I like how bullish it has been. But again, I also want to entertain the idea that maybe it's correcting itself because it did kind of like grow too quickly and now it's correcting itself. So I would love to follow up with this one. This is my favorite stock that has been shared today so far. CMG, what's going on, man? So CMG is actually a stock that my daughter is invested in. Whoa, I actually didn't know it recovered that much. We bought when it sold off. I actually didn't know that it recovered this much. When I decided I was working with my daughter's financial advisor. My daughter's just about to turn 4 years old. One of the stocks that we talked about is after Chipotle sold off the way that it did, we bought a few $1,000s worth of Chipotle, and we bought it with the intention of not expecting this thing to recover anytime soon. And even right now, I think this is a nice recovery. And again, I am telling you this as someone that has money in it, not for myself, but for my daughter. I would not be convinced to buy more now just because of this slight recovery. I bought with the intention of, my intentions are to sell back at previous highs. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets rejected here and comes back down to previous lows. It has a history of trying to recover, gets rejected, forms a lower high, and sells off again. It tries to recover, gets rejected, and then forms a lower high again. Lower lows and lower highs are the name of the game for CMG recently. If you look into their actual financials, I would encourage you to check it out. So this is Investing Pro. You guys don't have to use it if you don't want to, but if you do want to check it out, it's the first link in the description. down below. With that being said, if you look into their actual financials, Chipotle is not doing terrible. The revenue is actually increasing. They're under a new CEO, if I'm not mistaken, and everything is looking just fine. But the core customer base, particularly household earners under 100K annual, approximately 40% of the sales, has pulled back spending. So again, there has been, especially on the retail side, probably a reduction of demand, concern, and often investors are not just focused on current earning reports. They're also looking out for future reports of what's to come, right? Guidance. And I could see why there could be some form of uncertainties, which makes sense on why it could possibly be dropping. So do I think that CMG is a good trade? No. Do I think that it could make a good long-term investment? It meets some of my criterias, but I also think it's too early to tell. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets rejected here and forms another leg down. And I am telling you that as someone that has money invested for my daughter in that account. I'm not here to convince you to buy this because I think it's the end all be all. Again, our timeline for this thing to go up is not anytime soon. It's nice to see that it has recovered from $30 to now $39. Cool. It doesn't really change much. Just as I'm not super happy or excited about this, 20% uptick, I'm not going to be devastated during a 10% or 20% downturn. I hope that makes sense. Okay. I think it's a stock worth watching. I think that if you're interested in investing, look into it, see if fundamentally it's something that you want to be a part of. The risk to reward, if it meets your criteria, maybe it's a stock you can add to your watch list and follow up with it when it begins to actually make sense. Okay. Let's go ahead and do two more. Let's break down two more stocks and then we'll call it a live stream. Okay. I like that. JP Morgan. So why would we be talking about JP Morgan right now? I know for some of you, you might be like, well, Ricky, it's common sense why we're talking about it. I don't think it's common sense for everyone. Why this week? Why tomorrow? Why would we care to talk about a company like JP Morgan? Silver? No, that's not why. Earnings? No. Very quick. Why would we care to talk about a company like JP Morgan right now? There we go. We got 2 of you, 3 of you. I like that. 10% credit card issue. That is correct. For those that did not hear the news, January 20th, tomorrow, Trump set a deadline for all these credit card companies, which again, we made a video about it. I feel like we make so many videos that sometimes and there's so much news that's happening. It's overwhelming sometimes for me. So I could only imagine for you guys, like this is what I do every day, all the time. And it's hard for me to keep up. So maybe I need to do a better job organizing some of these news updates, but I'm one person. So nonetheless, Trump is trying to cap how much these banks, these institutions can charge consumers for credit cards. He is saying that he's putting a 10% cap instead of 21 or 30% of what they're currently charging users, and put a 10% cap for the next 12 months so consumers that are in credit card debt don't have to incur that much more in interest payments. That is supposed to go into effect tomorrow if it actually passes. That is why credit card companies like Visa have recently dropped, right? Significant pullback. MasterCard, American Express, Capital One, Bank of America, and JP Morgan. So yes, you better believe it. One of the, there's so many different banks and institutions that sold off. Tomorrow is definitely a day where we're going to be paying attention to institutions and to see how this news unfolds. If they end up canceling the 10% credit, cap, what do you think is going to happen? I want you guys to answer. Stop spamming the live chat. If it comes out that they're going to cap or they're not going to force these banks to issue that 10% cap, how do you think these banking institutions are going to respond? Are they going to go up or down? They'll go up, right? JP Morgan will go up. Visa will go up. MasterCard will go up. Very simple. Why? Remember, if you're capping these credit card companies, you're capping how much they can make off of consumers. So that's feeding into their profits. That's why they sold off. So if now that cap is removed and the threat and the uncertainty is no longer there, they're likely to recover. Again, I'm just trying to explain it in a very simplistic way so everyone, even beginners that are watching this for the first time, understand. That is why we're paying attention to the news. Not because we can predict what is going to happen. No one knows what is going to be reported. But by knowing why they sold off, by paying attention and trying to be quick to the news, then at that point, if it gets released and it does get removed, these are more likely to recover. We could buy into the dip and then make money on the recovery. Or if the news still stays, the uncertainty is still present, we can open up a short for those that have experience and that are not beginners. Open up a short. If these continue to bleed, we make money shorting. Make sense? Let's go ahead and do one more. If you want me to break down your top stock, let's do one more. And I apologize for today's live stream being so late, especially for our people out there in the East Coast. All right. Lulu. Let me look at this very quickly. Do we want to break down Lulu? No, but I'll look at it very quickly. 4 hour. Yeah, look at that. Terrible descending pattern. What do you want to do with Lulu? Are you trying to invest in Lulu or short Lulu? What was her name? Trevor. What are you thinking? Short or long? For me, it doesn't really make sense. Invest. New CEO. Yeah, I get that, but maybe it's just me. I can't with this trend. I mean, if this were to be like a perfect example of a stock that's selling off, like Lulu would be it right now. Lower highs, lower lows, and literally it's at a breaking point where it's breaking its support and it has a huge gap down. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the only one that has seen this and I'm just seeing things that aren't actually there, but I think the risk is too high for me. It's a consistent descending stock with right now testing a critical support. And if it breaks that support, we have some gap down potential. And to me, it's too risky. I get the idea. It's oversold. Maybe with a new CEO, they can turn things around. In my opinion, it's like the open door thing. People think that just because a new CEO steps in, the business is now fully changed. Come on. That's just not how it works. If it's a failing company before, it's going to fail most likely for a little bit longer before things really begin to turn around, especially Open Door, right? It's not like Open Door is a new company, yet the stock went up over 1,000% in 3 months. Don't get me started with that BS company. But nonetheless, yeah, this just wouldn't meet my criteria. Let me break down one more stock. What else? Hood. I like Hood. Let's talk about Hood. The reason why I like Hood is because it's not often a stock that I talk about because I'm so focused on shorting MSTR. But in all honesty, if Bitcoin really begins to drop, Hood is one of the top stocks that I would love to short. The reason why is, remember, Hood is Robinhood. Robinhood makes a majority of its money through payment through order flow and through trading activity. And when people begin to lose a ton of their money and markets begin to drop, trading activity begins to slow down, right? Which means that if it begins to slow down, pay attention to it. Look at their revenue. Every time that we enter a recession or any uncertain time, revenue goes down for Robinhood because, again, there's less trading activity as more people are losing money and less inclined to possibly place trades. So because of how overbought it is, it's still holding very well. But again, if Bitcoin begins to fall and overall markets begin to fall, Hood has huge retracement potential. Coin is also another one. Coin is another one that I would love. This one honestly has been destroyed quite a bit where it does have more downside, but it's oversold enough that, again, I think it's really just waiting for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin begins to recover, it can produce another leg up. But if Bitcoin begins to fall apart and sell off below 80,000, We have a long way to go for coin, especially on the larger timeframes. We have huge downside potential, which is something I would love to see. But of course, we'll cross that bridge once it presents itself. I also see the other side, right? I'm very biased when it comes down to shorting, but I got to respect the bulls, right? If markets do continue to push up higher, I could see why you're paying attention to Hood, because it has recently pulled back. And if it does find a support and it never breaks the support at 100, and it does find a support here from 108 all the way back up to 150, 160, it does look very attractive. So if you're on the bull case, I respect your opinion and your right to want to buy the dip. I would just be very careful that if it does break that support, I would be very adamant about managing and mitigating risk. Remember, we're all here for the same reason. Let's not pretend like we're not. We're all here to make money, right? Long or short, doesn't matter. We're all here for the same reason. Make money, enter, exit, bounce, and move on, right? You wait for another trade opportunity to meet your criteria, so on and so forth. So with that being said, I'm really excited for this week. There's a lot of, I don't want to even say that there's like a lot of news. There's just a lot of like random things that are going on that I would just say keeps the market kind of exciting right now. So it might be overwhelming for beginners because there is a lot of news that's like, well, what is with Trump buying Greenland? Why does that impact the market? What's like the tariffs that he's imposing and threatening and the uncertainty that presents. And the markets don't like uncertainty. So you'll hear me often talk a lot about uncertainty, but it's because of the response the market has to uncertainty. They like to de-risk. They like to sell during uncertain times. When things are certain or there's more conviction, then markets push up higher. So again, it's just a lot of choppiness, which a lot of volatility presents a lot of trade opportunities, but you kind of need it's kind of more of a run. I don't want to call it a sprint, but it's more of a run. And when you're a beginner, you're learning how to walk. So maybe it's not a bad week to just pay attention to the markets instead of trying to force a trade that you might not have a full understanding of what you are choosing to really take advantage of. So I hope to see some of you guys in tomorrow's live trading session. Again, for those that want to watch me trade live, for LPP 3.0, you get access to the A to Z video lesson library, the daily live trading session, and the private LPP 3.0 group chat. It is a one-time payment for lifetime access. The second link in the description down below will give you $300 off. And again, it's a one-time payment for lifetime access. That's one of the biggest discounts that we will ever offer. And again, that is the second link in the description down below. So again, MSTR short is fully closed other than my one lucky share. We made a little bit over $1,700 on that one. And the only other one is CoreWeave. CoreWeave, I still have my 300 shares. But it's a light enough position that I kind of just entertained the idea of keeping that one open until tomorrow's live trading session with the LPP team. So again, hope to see you there. Hope that earns a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. And like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take care, team, and happy Monday.